Imagine, uh, imagine you're a judge, right? You've got 15 years of experience on the bench.
Okay, a seasoned professional.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you are presented with this super straightforward shoplifting case. But right before you hand down the sentence, someone asks you to roll a pair of dice.
Which is, already a weird day in court.
Totally. So you roll, and the dice land on a 9. Now, subconsciously, that random number just rolling across the table completely alters your legal reasoning. You actually end up sentencing the woman to 8 months in prison.
But if you had rolled a 3...
If you had rolled a 3, you would have given her 5 months. I mean, it sounds completely absurd, right? You're probably listening to this deep dive right now thinking, I'm way too smart for that.
Yeah.
I would never, let a random dice roll dictate my professional judgment.
Yeah, it's a really comforting illusion. We all walk around believing we are these perfectly rational, independent thinkers sitting squarely in the driver's seat of our own minds. But the data from that actual study on German judges proves otherwise. I mean, the smarter you are, the better your brain is at rationalizing the invisible forces manipulating it.
And, well, that is our mission for this deep dive. We are unpacking the 21 mind traps concept, which is heavily inspired by Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman's work, Thinking Fast and Slow.
Such a landmark piece of work.
Oh, absolutely. But we aren't just going to, rattle off a list of dry psychological terms. We're going to look at the invisible tripwires causing massive friction in your everyday life.
And more importantly, how to actually outsmart them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for every trap we hit today, we're going to start by identifying the specific problem, explain the biological why behind it, and then give you a practical, real-world solution. We're specifically focusing on how this plays out in 3 really common workplace situations.
Because to really grasp this, we have to look at why these traps exist in the first place. I mean, they aren't flaws, right? They're not signs of a weak mind. They are hardwired, evolutionary, mental shortcuts. Every single second, your brain is just flooded with millions of pieces of sensory stimuli.
It's just too much data.
Way too much. If it tried to process all of it logically, you would literally short circuit. So your brain uses heuristics, basically mental shortcuts, to process data efficiently. You can't delete these biases from your hard drive, but noticing them arising in real time, that is your first step to becoming a truly rational thinker.
So let's jump right into the first major one. Workplace situation number 1. Imagine you arrive exactly 5 minutes late to the morning stand-up meeting.
Oh, the absolute worst feeling.
The worst. You push open the glass door, walk onto the floor, and your heart is just pounding.
Yeah.
You're sweating. You feel with absolute terrifying certainty that every single person in that room has stopped listening to the speaker and is silently judging your tardiness.
Or, maybe you're at the company holiday party, you spill a single drop of soy sauce on your collar, and you are convinced your professional reputation is just ruined for the night.
Yes. You just want the floor to swallow you whole. What is happening there?
Well, what your brain is doing is falling into the spotlight effect. It's this visceral phenomenon where you believe people are observing you far, far more than they actually are.
Even though they really aren't.
Right. The mechanism behind this is called egocentric bias. Essentially, your entire existence is experienced from your own point of view. You are the center of your universe, so your brain falsely projects that you must be the center of everyone else's universe, too.
Right. So it's like we think we are the main character in a movie, with a literal blinding spotlight following us around. But to everyone else, we're just like a blurry background extra in their movie.
That is the perfect analogy. I mean, the reality is that people are seldom interested in your actions. They're too busy worrying about their own soy sauce stains. Their brains are busy filtering out everything that isn't immediately relevant to their own survival or status.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, and this pairs with another really fascinating mechanism called the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon.
Oh, I love this one.
Have you ever bought a highly specific car, maybe like a vintage blue station wagon, and suddenly you start seeing them on every single street corner?
Oh, all the time.
Oh.
Or you learn a bizarre new word, and then it pops up in 3 different conversations that exact same week. You start thinking the universe is like sending you targeted ads through reality.
It feels like magic. But it's just your reticular activating system at work. That's the part of your brain responsible for pattern recognition.
Okay.
The blue station wagon was always there, driving past you in that daily sea of stimuli. Your brain just deleted it from your conscious awareness because it wasn't relevant to you.
But once you bought one.
Exactly. You instructed your brain. This is important now. Paired with the recency effect, which inflates the importance of new stimuli, your brain suddenly locks onto it everywhere.
Okay, so if my brain is literally hallucinating this level of attention and pattern matching, what is the actual practical fix? Because telling someone who is having a panic attack about being late to just calm down never ever works.
No, it doesn't, because you are fighting biology. The fix requires an active logical override. When you feel that intense, crushing anxiety from a minor slip-up, you have to consciously decenter
Just
yourself.
center yourself. Okay, how?
You acknowledge the egocentric bias. You explicitly remind yourself that the audience your brain is terrified of simply does not exist. Overcoming it simply requires stepping outside of your own perspective and actively recognizing that the perceived judgment is just an illusion generated by your own working memory.
Stop overestimating your audience and the anxiety evaporates. I really like that. Now, just as our brains hallucinate how much people are noticing us internally, the source material points out that our brains get completely hijacked by external information too.
Oh, absolutely.
Specifically, the very first piece of information we encounter. Which brings us back to those German judges and the loaded dice. That is the anchoring effect.
It is arguably the most dangerous bias in negotiations. Whenever the human brain has to estimate something unfamiliar, it refuses to do it in a vacuum. It desperately searches for a baseline, an anchor.
Just to have somewhere to start.
Right. It grabs the first tangible number it can find and adjusts from there. The reason those highly trained judges gave a longer sentence after rolling a 9 is because their brains subconsciously latched onto the 9 as the baseline for months in prison, and they just negotiated down a little bit from there.
Which is wild. Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Are we actually that easily manipulated? Even by numbers we know are totally random.
We really are. But you can also use it to your advantage. There are some great short accounts in the source material about people conquering this trap, like Sarah's car negotiation.
Oh yeah, the car story. Walk us through that.
So Sarah wants to buy a $50,000 car, but she knows her partner is going to balk at that price. So instead of showing him similar cars in that price range, she actively controls the anchor.
She weaponizes it.
She orchestrates the context perfectly. She deliberately takes him to look at several $90,000 cars first. She waits for him to gasp at the massive price tag. She establishes that $90,000 car is in his brain.
And
Only then does she show him the $50,000 car she actually wants.
because, like, suddenly compared to 90 grand, 50 feels like a bargain, it feels like a relief.
Exactly. It's the contrast effect in action. The brain can't make absolute judgments, it only makes comparisons.
Right. The brain conserves energy by just relying on relative comparisons. But there was another great account, too, about home buyers.
Yes. The couple navigating a wildly inflated real estate market. The seller threw out this astronomically high asking price.
Which normally traps the buyer.
Yeah.
Right, you spend weeks just trying to whittle that initial number down by a few percent, feeling like you won.
But these buyers recognized the trap. They knew the high asking price was just an arbitrary anchor designed to hijack their baseline. Instead of letting that number dictate their negotiation, they consciously set it aside.
They just ignored it.
Completely ignored it. They performed their own independent due diligence, calculated the home's objective value, and then they moved first. They submitted a firm offer based on their math, effectively anchoring the seller to their calculated number.
They overwrote the baseline. That is so smart. But here's the thing. Anchoring isn't just about numbers and budgets, is it? It applies heavily to human character, too.
Oh, big time.
Which brings us to the halo effect.
The halo effect is essentially anchoring applied to personality.
Oh.
I'll demonstrate. Consider two people, Alan and Ben. Alan is described as intelligent, industrious, impulsive, critical, stubborn, and envious. Now Ben is described as envious, stubborn, critical, impulsive, industrious, and intelligent.
Wait, that is the exact same list of adjectives. You just read them in reverse order.
Exactly, but instinctively your brain tells you Alan is a smart, driven guy who occasionally gets a little competitive, whereas Ben sounds like a jealous, miserable jerk who just happens to be smart.
It really does. Sequence is literally everything.
Your brain gives disproportionate weight to the first piece of information it receives because it needs to quickly build a cohesive narrative. The initial positive traits create a blinding halo that outshines the negative traits.
Which explains so much. Like, the source mentions Bernie Madoff.
Right, the biggest Ponzi scheme in history. His legendary early returns created a halo of trust so blinding that financial regulators literally ignored the fact that his underlying math was physically impossible.
That perfectly sets up workplace situation number 2. The open discussion meeting.
A classic.
We have all sat around a conference table to evaluate a new project. Standard practice is to just throw it to the room and start talking. But if the boss speaks first, their opinion creates an immediate halo.
The whole room anchors to it. The rest of the group's input is heavily weighted by that first perspective.
So how do you get actual diverse input without, insulting the boss? What's the practical solution?
You have to gather independent judgments from everyone on paper before a single word is discussed aloud. When you sit down, have everyone write their unvarnished assessment on a sticky note.
Just to get it out of their heads.
Exactly. You prevent the first speaker from unduly influencing the room, bypassing the halo and anchoring effects entirely.
But what happens when our initial anchors or halos are challenged by reality? Like what happens when we realize we've been played?
Well, our brains don't just accept it, they hate being wrong.
Right.
So we twist reality to protect our ego. We experience cognitive dissonance. This isn't just a metaphor. It causes literal biological stress. Your brain registers conflicting ideas as a threat.
Which brings us to justifying the unjustifiable. It's the classic Aesop's fable of the fox and the sour grapes.
A perfect example.
The fox jumps up to grab these delicious-looking grapes, but they're just too high. He fails. Rather than enduring the ego damage of admitting he isn't capable, he walks away and says, those grapes were probably sour anyway.
He invents a brand new, conflicting belief simply to explain away his failure and soothe his biological stress response.
And this happens constantly in our careers. This is workplace situation number 3.
Let's hear it.
You interview for a major promotion. You desperately want it, you've prepared for weeks, but someone else gets the job. Instead of objectively looking at the situation and acknowledging that, hey, the other candidate had better skills, you tell yourself, well, that job was going to be terrible anyway, or the interviewer was totally unfair.
You're playing the clever fox. You are soothing the dissonance by inventing excuses.
So how do we stop playing the fox? What is the solution when you get passed over like that?
You have to catch the ego defense in real time. When you feel that specific mental stress, ask yourself, what 2 beliefs are competing here in my head? Am I creating this new belief just to explain away my failure?
You have to call yourself out.
You do. The fix is to change your behavior or mindset, not to invent excuses. Because as the fable warns, you can play the clever fox all you want, but you'll never actually get the grapes that way.
That is tough to swallow, but so necessary. And it gets exponentially more dangerous when we actively seek out information to prove our sour grapes theory is right.
Oh yes, confirmation bias.
Right. The source brings up this guy, John. John searches Google, but he only clicks on evidence that supports his pre-existing theory. He acts like a bouncer at a nightclub, only unhooking the velvet rope for thoughts dressed in his favorite colors.
What's fascinating here is how modern technology interacts with this. Social media echo chambers supercharge our confirmation bias.
Because the algorithms are designed to exploit it.
Exactly. They feed you a relentless stream of one-sided content. Frequent repetition makes falsehoods feel like truth. Your brain struggles to distinguish familiarity from fact.
So the more you curate your feed to fit your beliefs, the narrower your perspective becomes until you develop this absolute, I am always correct, ego.
Discourse breaks down entirely.
So how do we break the flywheel? What is the practical step to escape the echo chamber?
You have to adopt the core tenet of the scientific method. You shouldn't try to prove your hypothesis. You should actively try to refute it. To combat confirmation bias, you must actively practice what's called thinking gray.
Which means consciously suspending your immediate judgments.
Right. Step out of your echo chamber and realize the objective facts usually lie in the messy gray area between extremes.
Okay, so we're actively dodging the spotlight, we're fighting off random anchors, we're trying not to invent sour grapes, and we're battling echo chambers. I mean, trying to navigate all these biases can lead to absolute mental exhaustion.
It leads to poor choices and total cognitive overload.
Which brings us to our final set of traps. Decision paralysis. Let's start with the gambler's fallacy. Imagine I flick a coin 3 times and it lands on heads each time. What does your gut tell you the next flip will be?
My gut instantly screams tails. It's due.
Right. We implicitly believe there's a balancing force in the universe. But the coin doesn't have a memory. The expert source highlights the terrifying real-world impact of this. They looked at actual asylum judges.
This part is staggering.
These judges were 19% less likely to approve an asylum seeker's application if they had just approved the previous 2.
They falsely believe there was a balancing force.
Exactly. People's lives were denied simply because the judge's brain needed an equilibrium. So the practical solution for the gambler's fallacy.
Actively remind yourself to evaluate events independently. The universe has no memory and owes you no balance.
Love that. Now, what about the paradox of choice, the famous supermarket jam experiment?
Oh, this one is classic. Researchers set up a tasting booth with 24 different types of jam. Huge display. It attracted tons of people. But when it came time to actually buy, hardly anyone did.
Right, but when they set up a booth with only 6 jams,
They sold 10 times more product.
10 times. Because with every additional option, the opportunity cost goes up. You're exhausted trying to pick the perfect one.
So the solution here, limit your options intentionally. Understand that more choices just increase opportunity cost and regret.
Keep it simple. Which leaves us with one final trap, the Zeigarnik effect. This is that moment when you are lying awake at 2:00 a.m., stressing over incomplete tasks at the office.
The Zeigarnik effect dictates that incomplete tasks stick around in our memory, causing cognitive tension.
But if I get out of bed and write down everything I haven't finished, doesn't that just make me stare at a terrifying to-do list? How does that help?
Well, think of your brain like a computer's RAM. If a task is incomplete, that RAM stays occupied trying not to forget it. If incomplete work is gnawing at you, simply grab a pen and write down a plan to get it done. The act of writing it down acts as an external hard drive. It tricks your brain into letting it go, giving you instant peace of mind.
You prove to your brain that data is safely stored elsewhere. That is brilliant. And let's pull all of this together. Our brains are incredible supercomputers, but they are full of invisible tripwires.
Absolutely.
By recognizing the spotlight effect, fighting the anchor, avoiding echo chambers, and writing down our tasks, we regain control of our daily lives.
And if there's a one final thought I'd like to leave you with, it's this. We usually associate total confidence with being right.
Right.
But considering everything we've explored today, the confirmation bias, the halo effect, the echo chambers, what if that feeling of absolute unquestioning certainty is actually the biggest red flag that you've just fallen into a mind trap?
Oh, wow. That is something to think about. So the next time you feel perfectly certain about something, maybe question your own certainty. Observe your own mind this week. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. See you next time.